Hi, and welcome to Your Choice 2022 General Election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Sydney Kenzer. Today we're here for a candidate interview with Sam Singh, a Democrat who is running for the 28th District seat in the State Senate. Thanks so much for joining us today. At this time, we'd like to give you the opportunity to briefly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for having me back here at HOMTV. I'm Sam Singh. I am a lifelong Michigander. I was born and raised in Southeast Michigan. My parents are immigrants. They came from India to America to find a better opportunity for themselves. And me and my younger brother grew up in Southeast Michigan, but both came up to Michigan State University. And that's where I found home. I've been here since 1989. I had the opportunity to be on the East Lansing City Council. I was the mayor of the city of East Lansing. And then between 2012 and 2018, I was the state representative representing East Lansing, Okemos, Hazlitt, Williamstown Township, and Locke Township in the state legislature. And so it's been a great opportunity to serve over these many years, and I'm looking forward, if the voters want me back in November, to serve this area once again in the state Senate.
Thank you. Each 28th District candidate will be asked a standard list of questions. For question 1, please explain how your education and professional background make you an ideal candidate for State Senate.
Well, first of all, I've had the opportunity to, as I mentioned, go to Michigan State University, and Michigan State is such an integral part of the 28th District. The new 28th District is about a third of Ingham County. It's 90% of Clinton County, 90% of Shiawassee County. And when you take a look at the workers that are here in this region, the people that have graduated from Michigan State, there's a strong tie between the 28th District and the university. And so being an alum from this university, I think makes it a little bit tighter. Since I graduated from Michigan State, I worked in the nonprofit sector for a long period of time. I ran the Michigan Nonprofit Association, representing charities all across the state, and then also did a lot of consulting work with workforce development programs. And so I think right now, especially when you're taking a look at the economy here in the state of Michigan, having that kind of background, having worked with both the nonprofit sector, but also with small business, I think it gives me an ideal look into what the policies could be and should be as we move the state forward.
Please tell us more about the communities and people of the 28th District and how you plan to meet their needs.
Well, I think the 28th District, as I mentioned, the three counties, and they're all very different and separate, but at the same time, I found that they all want the same things. There's a strong desire for our public education system to be strong. I think as I talk to parents, they want to make sure that as their kids graduate from high school, there's opportunities for them, whether it's going into a 4-year college or going into a trade or going into community college. They want to be able to have that level of access. And then I think in the end, people are looking for jobs. They want to make sure that there are opportunities with good paying jobs here in the area. And so to me, those are things that kind of keep us together. But at the same time, we have, cities, townships, some very rural parts of the district. And so, as I talk to people, issues of agriculture come up in my more rural parts of the district. Transportation is a big need over all three counties. And so to me, it's been a really good opportunity as I've been going door to door throughout this area to learn more about each of the communities, what they are needing from their state senator. And so, my hope is when I get elected, if the citizens want me to be their next state senator, is to be able to take all of that information and be able to work with each of those communities on a one-on-one basis. I also want to make sure that as a state senator, I am open and accessible. I was able to do that while I was in the State House. So being able to do coffee hours throughout the community, being able to hold Zoom sessions so those who might not be able to drive to a certain location, that they could actually access that. I want to do it at different times of the day. So for those that are working, they can come in the evening, or for those that are able to come into a morning coffee, we can do all of those types of things. So I just want to make sure that that communication from my office to all three counties are able to be provided to all the people of the 28th District.
The next several questions will cover prominent issues in Michigan. First of all, please comment on Proposal 22-3 and share your thoughts on the current and future governing of abortion in Michigan.
Well, I'm pro-choice. I don't believe that the government should be in the way of a decision that's made between a woman and their doctor. I think for me, Proposal 3 protects the status quo. It provides the opportunity for people who've had access to abortion to be able to continue to have that here in the state, but it also does more than that. It also provides a right to contraception, a right to IVF and other types of medical procedures that, I think many people are concerned that might go away. We're seeing in other states, but also even hearing from other candidates here in Michigan, their desire to take away access to contraception. And to me, I don't think that's right. I think we have a fundamental right to privacy that was found in the Constitution. I agree with that original decision that was made by the Supreme Court. I think this Supreme Court has been a very activist Supreme Court and therefore has taken this issue very far, much further away than what the public wants. I've talked to Republican women, I've talked to independents and Democrats, and I've found a commonality that they want to be able to provide those same level of protections that people have today. And so I am supporting Proposal 3. I think it will pass because I think there's a broad perspective amongst Republicans, independents, and Democrats to provide that protection for women.
Please speak on the state's teacher shortage and your plans, if any, to address it.
Well, it's been very clear over the last 15 years, there's been an attack on public education. And I think, unfortunately, teachers have decided that they might not want to be in the profession. I've seen a lot of teachers retire early. We represent, obviously, in this area, one of the teacher education schools at Michigan State University. You're seeing less people going into the teaching profession, going into education programs at our universities, and that's because there's been a lot of changes. We have made wages, unfortunately, not competitive with the private sector. We've made the fact that people have to pay more for their insurance and their retirement programs. It's kind of, unfortunately, made people think twice about the education system and going into that as a profession. And so to me, I think we have to be really systematic and smart about how we deal with this immediate shortage. One is that we should be able to remove any obstacles from recent retirees. If they want to come back into the classroom, let's provide them that. Unfortunately, right now, there are some restrictions that prohibit some of those teachers coming back right away, and so I want to be able to provide that opportunity. I think we have to provide incentives for people to stay in the profession, and then I think we also have to provide incentives for people who are entering education programs to be able to pay off their student loans, be able to pay them during their student teaching opportunities. So there are a number of proposals that have been presented to the legislature. Unfortunately, they haven't acted on as many of them as I would have liked. But to me, that is a number one issue going into the next legislative session. If they don't fund some of those programs here in the lame duck session, then I think that's got to be number one priority going into next year.
Please comment on school safety throughout Michigan and share any plans you have to improve it.
Well, I think we should be always taking a look at common sense solutions for school safety as well as gun safety. To me, I want to listen to the teachers, to our administrators, and listen to what they want to see done in our communities. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to ensure that there are additional resources that are provided to our classrooms, our teachers, to make sure that those are fortified and safe. But at the same point in time, I think we need to take a look at the larger issue of especially gun safety, make sure that there are strong laws that are on the books, whether they're red flag laws, where we know somebody could be a danger to themselves or somebody else. We can go to court and be able to take away any of the weapons using the judicial system. They do that in many other states. Unfortunately, we don't do that here. You're making sure that we have safe storage laws, make sure that we remove any obstacles for basic background and universal background checks. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a state that provides that safety net for the entire community, but also our schools.
Share your thoughts on Michigan's current infrastructure and any plans you'd like for improvement?
Well, while I was in the legislature, infrastructure was something that was very important to me. I wanted to, make sure that we were investing appropriately. And it's not just our roads and our bridges, but it's also our rail system. It's our access to broadband. It's our water and sewer systems. And so we have to look at infrastructure as a comprehensive issue going forward. Now, the good thing is our federal government passed a once-in-a-lifetime infrastructure package that will be coming to all of the states. And one of the things I want to do is make sure that we're fully leveraging all of those federal resources and then making sure that we're getting our fair share. Oftentimes, Michigan, unfortunately, pays more in taxes to the federal government and doesn't get that fair share back. I think because of who we have in our congressional delegation and our 2 U.S. senators, we have to use them to make sure that we're bringing as much resources back to Michigan. And then as we're looking at infrastructure projects, we need to partner with our local communities. A lot of our local communities received resources from the American Rescue Plan, and we can leverage some of those infrastructure dollars with some of their local dollars to make sure that our buck goes a lot further. But there's a lot of work to be done for local roads, for local water and sewer, and I think we have to have a real comprehensive strategy for that. There had been some studies that were done a few years ago, but that was before the federal infrastructure bill, and I think there needs to be another, not a long-term study, but a very short-term study that really says, what are the opportunities now that we have these federal resources, and how do we leverage them? So we do have, once again, the best roads in the country, the best rail system, the best broadband. We need all of those systems working well for us to not only be doing well by our citizens, but making sure that we have the right economic development tools so we can prosper as a state.
What is your attitude towards fiscal responsibility in the state government?
Well, I think we always have to be fiscally responsible. That's what the citizens demand and request of us. I was proud when I was on the East Lansing City Council and I was mayor. We passed, 12 balanced budgets. As I left the City Council, we eventually got AAA bond rating, which showed the sound character of our budget. While I was in the legislature, I fought for budgets. Didn't always win because I was in the minority, but fought for budgets that were sound, that would move our state forward by investing in the right levels of infrastructure, the right levels of dollars and resources to our local communities through revenue sharing. And so I think as we move forward, we have to be really cognizant of that we don't want to lose the great strides that we've made. Governor Whitmer has a record surplus that she and the legislature are dealing with. We have a well-funded rainy day fund, and now we have to really use the resources in that $7 billion of surplus to really make sure those areas that have not had the right level of funding over the last 20 years get that. So if we've been short on funding our roads or our other infrastructure costs, we should be utilizing those dollars and resources to make up for some of the cuts that we've had to endure over the last 20 years.
How do you plan to address economic instability and inflation throughout the state?
Well, obviously we have to do things that are spurring the economy to move forward. And as I'm hearing from small businesses a lot is that they are looking for workers that have different types of skills. And so to me, one of the things that the state government should do, working with business, is do more workforce development. We need to be training people who are looking for new jobs or different types of opportunities, make sure that they have the right skills. As we're trying to attract new electric vehicle companies or electric vehicle battery makers, semiconductor opportunities, we have a different set of workforce needs. So we need to make sure that that is being addressed. At the same time, a lot of these companies need new infrastructure. So that means we need to have a strong building trade system. And right now we have a lot of our people who are in the building trades that are looking to retire soon. And so we've not necessarily trained enough people to replace those individuals who are looking to retire. And so to me, we have to make sure that there are significant investments in apprenticeship programs, in other types of training programs. So the building trades are fully populated, because we can't do some of the long-term economic development things if we can't build those things effectively. And we need a strong building trade system to do that.
Please address the preservation of Michigan's natural resources.
Yeah, one of the things that I believe that we should be focused on as a state, and it's one of my priorities going into the state senate, is making sure that we are funding our environment, making sure that we are taking seriously climate change. Making sure that we are doing things that not only protect our water, our air quality, but make sure that we are addressing the long-term climate issues. I was proud while I was in the legislature to have worked on the 2016 energy bill, which actually expanded renewable energy and energy efficiency here in the state of Michigan. I think we need to go much further than what that bill did, and I think there's an opportunity with the next legislature in 2023 to begin to look at more of those opportunities. At the same time, water is a huge issue. We are, I think, in the process of trying to eliminate lead pipelines all throughout the state, but we have chemicals like PFAS that are, unfortunately, really difficult to remove from our water systems, and so that requires a large investment of dollars and resources that the state needs to put in. But we also have to make sure that those businesses that were using chemicals that were not appropriate are also paying their fair share. We need to hold polluters accountable and make sure that they're paying for some of the remediation that's necessary here. So I'd also want to be able to strengthen some of those laws to make sure that those businesses pay their fair share. Because we only have one Earth, and for us to be able to succeed, not only as a state but as a country, as a world, we have to take that very seriously. And Michigan and other states in the Midwest have a responsibility. We have, close to 25% of the fresh water of the entire world right here in our region, and so we need to make sure that we are good stewards of the environment.
Please address Michigan's opioid usage and the statewide presence of fentanyl.
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned early on in my first term in the legislature was how bad the opioid crisis was, not only in Ingham County, but throughout the entire state. I was proud to have worked on a number of pieces of legislation that got passed into law dealing with the opioid crisis. I worked with a Republican representative from the southwest part of Michigan to introduce medical amnesty for those that are dealing with medical issues, dealing with opioid or any other type of overdose. We also made sure that there was medical directives that somebody could put into their files to say, hey, I don't want an opioid, so let's say I'm unconscious, I get brought in by the ambulance, I've got predilection to be addicted to opioids. I don't want somebody, giving that without, my consent and so forth. So we've created a medical directive that would give the medical community awareness that this person should not be given an opioid. And so to me, it's a serious issue. We worked on some of those issues while I was in the legislature, but there is so much more that we need to do. We need to fund more dollars and resources for abuse programs, whether it's opioid abuse or alcohol abuse. We just don't have enough resources going into those areas. And just in general, behavioral health outside of addiction is a significant issue as well. And so to me, that's an area of resources that the state needs to put some of that surplus towards, whether it's behavioral health or addiction services.
How do you believe the district and state of Michigan should approach new or continued diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts?
Well, I think we have to be aware that as a state, we thrive if we are diverse and equitable. I think we need to make sure that our laws provide equality for all workers. Right now, unfortunately, the state has not changed the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to protect those of different sexual orientation or gender identity. A lot of our local communities, I'm pleased to say, have. So places like Meridian Township, East Lansing have done that on their own. But as a region or as a state, we need to pass some of those protections. And then I think it's the role of government to keep looking at data, making sure that both the private sector as well as the public sector are aware of where there are deficiencies. We saw this during the pandemic that that in our health systems, there were huge disparities of people who were impacted by COVID, whether those were our older citizens or people of color. And so to me, if you're looking at data, you're providing resources that can then address some of the issues, then you can be able to be a great welcoming state that does great things for the health and quality of life for people, but it's also a great economic engine for the state of Michigan.
We've reached our final question. Please provide a closing statement sharing your goals for your district and state.
Well, as I mentioned, to me, there's a great opportunity for our state. My wife and I have a 5-year-old son, Remington, who is just starting kindergarten. And I know the Michigan that I grew up in was known for its public schools. It was known for its great universities. It had much better infrastructure. And I want that same Michigan for my son, for all the kids here in Michigan. And so it's one of the reasons why I'm running for the state Senate. I think we can do much more as a state that looks at workforce development, making sure that there's jobs and opportunities, make sure that we're funding our K through 12 schools and our community colleges and our universities at a better level, doing smart economic development, and then at the end, protecting our environment, making sure that the quality of life that we've been known to have here in the state continues for generations to come. And so, I'm hopeful that the citizens of the 28th district will vote for me. They can go to www.votesamsingh.com to learn a little bit more about our campaign. And I just thank everybody for the opportunity that I've had to serve in the past, and if they provide me the opportunity in November to serve in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for tuning in to this candidate interview with Sam Singh, Democratic candidate for the 28th District in the State Senate. I'm Sydney Kenzer, inviting you to watch live election night coverage here on HOMTV on Tuesday, November 8th.